It really means a lot. The album's a real pinnacle for me in terms of what we try to do as musicians. Um, and I'm just so glad that there is an award that tries to honour that and to celebrate moving the album format forward. The albums this year were incredible, and so to be honoured in this way, I mean, even just to be honoured amongst those amazing 9 albums was really special to me. They're hard things to make. This one took me a good 5 or so years. So I feel really elated that it's been honoured in this way, and I feel very fortunate and lucky because I feel like any of those records could have won.
And how good is it to be recognised in this way in a room full of all your peers?
Yeah, I mean, it's just lovely to be in a room of my peers. I spoke a little about green rooms, and I do miss them, and I miss the hanging out behind the stage with other people who have chosen this strange life that we have. It's really a special thing. I guess for me, I started as such an outsider in music. I always felt like an outsider at high school, and then I found this love for music, and it gave me some more friends. But each time you move to a new city and you try to play music, you sometimes feel like a bit of an imposter amongst other musicians. And I guess that's changed to me in the last little while, and I realise it's because of things like the Green Room. And the best thing I think we can do for young up-and-coming artists is to have them as support acts and to welcome them into the Green Room and to say you are welcome and you belong here with us. You've chosen this funny old life, and you might not feel like you might not feel like a superstar all the time, but you belong here.
Yeah. Tell me about some of the beautiful collaborations that kind of allowed for this album to come to fruition.
Well, I guess there's so many, and I had such a long thank you list, and I probably missed some people as well. But I've been working with Jonathan Pierce for 10 years now. I was invited to tour manage his old band. He's a few years younger than me, and we got talking and quite liked each other. And he became my guitarist. We've got such a deep, long collaboration with him. I mean, little things like, for example, he played this particular guitar. I sold my guitar because I'd moved to Auckland. I had no money. I sold my guitar and became a front person. And Jonathan joined my band as the guitarist. And over a couple of years, I would sometimes borrow his guitar when I needed to play it. And we realized that this guitar was actually, it was like it was meant for me. It seemed to be. and so I ended up, buying his guitar off him, and I was there when Jonathan first decided, what, I think I'd like to make a record, not just play as a great guitarist or pianist. And so to be able to collaborate over the course of 3 albums with Jonathan, and I talked a lot about, in my speech, about what it means to work with people again and again over a long period of time, and I really do think that the journeys that you've walked together mean that you can walk a little bit further because you get to not start from square one with somebody. And I've been amazed and surprised because I've changed so much. Jonathan's changed so much. My visual collaborator, Daniel Blackboy Alexander, has changed a lot. But all of us have. And yet, when we work together, it might take us a bit to get used to it again. And my band members, people like Stuart or David, or we've done lots of work with people like Charmian and Anna Coddington, who I've known for a really long time, and just put in just a little backing vocal that she sent us. She sent us like 10 versions of this backing vocal, and then it turned into such a pivotal piece of that song. So there are so many collaborations, and they all come from a place of knowing people over a long period of time and feeling that trust that you can ask somebody, and then later on when you work with them longer, feeling that trust that you can start from with a little bit of a head start.
You kind of spoke to like how growing up you were quite shy and you experienced this imposter syndrome, and then the affirming power of the green room kind of helped you get over that a little bit. Does that mean that having these consistent collaborations with people that you know so well also sort of helps you in that way?
Yeah, and I mean, it's not easy. I mean, it's funny, I try to collaborate, and I think it's really important. But it's not as easy as just sending an email. Like, you do need to develop rapport. You need to meet people, you need to know people, and it's much easier to collaborate with people if you know them first as a friend, as a fellow traveller. And I think that's a little bit unappreciated. It takes time. It takes time to find a new collaborator, and sometimes it's not healthy to ask somebody out of the cold, I think you'd be great for this. But if you meet them in person, and if you share something in common elsewhere, you might be able to grow that trust and bring someone on board. And what I notice doing this longer, I feel more and more secure as a performer and as a member of a community, because I know those faces. And and I know it's hard, and it's hard coming in as a new musician and feeling like you are not invited, but you are invited. You're there, but it can take a little time. And the best thing is to get to know your contemporaries, your peers who are starting out as you are.
And this album has been, you mentioned, like 5 years in the making. Were there delays because of COVID, or what was the situation?
Those weren't the main delays. They were delays. There was a delay from COVID, and there was a delay from vinyl production at the end. But of course, you always have the optimism bias. You always have the optimism bias about making an album. You always think you're going to get it done in a year's time. But in reality, it always takes longer, especially if you're an independent. And I remember one of the most heartening things that was ever said to me was Ryan McFun from the Ruby Sons, which is a band that I just admired a great deal. I said to Ryan, I feel bad because it's taking me years to make my album. It's taken me 3 years, and David Bowie had an album out every 9 months, and he said, no, don't think about that. David Bowie had a staff of 40 people, and this is the difference. As independent musicians, we have to build this team. We have to work with the resources we've got. We have to live by that same adage that construction people work in, that you can have it fast, cheap. What was it? That you can have it fast, good, or cheap, but only 2 of 3. And for a lot of independent musicians, the answer, if you want a great album, if you don't have a lot of money, you can't have it fast too. And so, one of the things that was interesting, and I would have loved to thank, I forgot to thank my audience. One of the things that helped us make this record, but also made it a longer process, was that we decided with this album that we would let audiences hear the album first, or hear the songs, and we would let that propel the development of the songs. And because I found in the past that you record an album and then you go and play it live, and then you find that the songs are so much better live once you've played it to some audiences. Our process, Jonathan and I, with this record, was that I would go out on tour with the early versions of the songs and let them develop by playing them to people. So really it was the audiences that developed the songs. It was the audiences that put a guitar solo and Leave Love out of this, because I felt like live it needed something else. And it was an audience that put a big, strange, almost house music like bass drop at the end of what started as a folk song in Peacetime Orders.
Yeah. Well, what a beautiful opportunity to get to kind of celebrate your album and everything in this massive achievement. I guess this is the first event that's happened in a little while because of COVID, so it's kind of nice to be amongst your peers and see everyone and celebrate properly, right? This labour of love.
It really is, yeah. It's it feels very special, and I love that we make this a process where for the longest time, and this is an award about 10 albums. We choose a stable of 10 albums, just like the Silver Scrolls choose a stable of 5 albums, and for most of the time, that's what we are celebrating, and that's given me huge legs up. I wouldn't have my audience if it wasn't for the fact that we have bodies that choose to celebrate the nominees and not just the winner.